Jeff Gordon's secret deal with Hendrick. 1992, the prodigy jumps ship. In 1992, young NASCAR sensation Jeff Gordon made one of the sport's most talked-about moves, leaving behind the team that launched him. At just 20, Gordon was dominating the Busch Series with Bill Davis Racing's Ford, winning races and poles. But powerhouse owner Rick Hendrick had other plans. In secret, Hendrick offered Jeff a Cup Series ride and promised to bring in crew chief Ray Evernham, even though Bill Davis intended to take him Cup racing himself. Gordon wrestled with the decision for weeks before signing with Hendrick. When he finally told Davis, right after Davis met with Target about sponsorship, the owner was stunned, saying it felt like a stab in the heart. Ford's racing boss Michael Cranefus publicly blasted the decision, calling Gordon an ungrateful punk, while others inside Ford decried the timing, and the media painted Jeff as disloyal. Despite the backlash, Gordon joined Hendrick in 1993, won Rookie of the Year, and soon became a four-time Cup champion. The controversial split broke a friendship but set Jeff Gordon on a path to NASCAR greatness, proving sometimes the toughest choices define a legend. Dale Earnhardt Jr. leaves DEI. 2007, a family feud splits NASCAR's royalty. It was NASCAR's version of a royal family split. In May 2007, Dale Earnhardt Jr., the sport's most popular driver, stunned fans by announcing he would leave Dale Earnhardt Inc., DEI, the team founded by his late father. Behind the scenes, Jr. and his stepmother, Teresa Earnhardt, had been locked in a power struggle. A 17-time Cup winner with DEI, Jr. wanted 51% ownership, saying he needed control to make the team a championship contender. Teresa refused. Their feud spilled into public view when Teresa questioned Jr.'s commitment, prompting him to admit their relationship ain't a bed of roses. Feeling denied his birthright, Jr., at 32 years old, the same age his father made a career-changing move, told reporters, "It's time for us to move on." Fans were shocked. DEI had been his home since his 1999 rookie season, where he'd won 2 Busch titles and the Daytona 500. Teresa responded coolly, saying DEI would continue, built on loyalty, integrity, and commitment. The saga had everything: boardroom drama, clashing egos, and the Earnhardt legacy on the line. Jr.'s departure sparked a bidding war, ending with him signing for Hendrick Motorsports, a move many saw as his final break from Teresa's control. Tony Stewart jumps ship to Stewart-Haas. 2008, the champ becomes a rebel owner. Two-time Cup champion Tony "Smoke" Stewart shocked his longtime team owner Joe Gibbs and the entire NASCAR garage by walking away to start his own team. Stewart had spent a decade at Joe Gibbs Racing, JGR, winning 33 Cup races and 2 championships in the number 20 car. But by 2008, restless and thinking about life after driving, Stewart made a gamble worthy of a Hollywood script. He negotiated an early release from JGR to join the struggling Haas CNC racing team as co-owner and driver, rebranding it as Stewart-Haas Racing. It was a bombshell, leaving NASCAR's elite Gibbs operation, which had just switched to Toyota for 2008. Stewart had long-standing ties to Chevrolet, and soon chose to return to Chevy with his next team, to take over a Chevy team that usually ran 30th in points. Gibbs, a Hall of Fame NFL coach turned team owner, had been like a father to Stewart, making the decision feel like a son rebelling. In a heartfelt conversation, Gibbs kept asking why. Stewart finally replied, "This is my opportunity to be you," leaving Gibbs silent. Many saw it as a risky betrayal. Stewart himself admitted, "There's no guarantee this will work." JGR crew members were emotional but supportive. Crew chief Greg Zipadelli said, "We could never be mad." Fans debated if Smoke was courageous or crazy. In the end, the gamble paid off. Stewart-Haas became a powerhouse, and in 2011, Stewart won a championship as both owner and driver. Kurt Busch versus Roush Racing, 2005, the champion's bitter exit. Just 1 year after delivering Jack Roush a Cup championship, Kurt Busch went from team hero to unwanted outcast. In 2004, Busch clinched the inaugural NASCAR Nextel Cup Chase title in Roush's number 97 Ford, seemingly sealing a long-term partnership. But behind the scenes, Kurt was already plotting an exit. By late 2005, he had quietly signed to drive for Roger Penske the following season, a move that blindsided Roush and left him fuming. When the news leaked, the atmosphere soured quickly. The tension exploded in November 2005 at Phoenix, when Busch was pulled over for reckless driving. An argumentative Kurt allegedly mouthed off to police, even quipping that the officer must be a Jeff Gordon fan. The embarrassing headlines were the last straw. Roush suspended Busch for the final 2 races despite a top 10 points finish, publicly blasting him. Kurt had been a challenge for everybody. He used up his equity with his sponsors. He used up his equity with me. He added that Busch showed no true remorse. The partnership that once brought glory had crumbled into mistrust and silence. Busch left Roush racing under a dark cloud, his championship overshadowed by burned bridges and a bitter public split. Carl Edwards' shocking switch to Gibbs, 2014, Roush's golden boy leaves. For Jack Roush, history repeated itself in 2014 when another star driver, Carl Edwards, stunned the NASCAR world by announcing his departure. Edwards was the face of Roush Fenway racing for a decade, a hard-working Missouri native who rose from the Truck Series to 23 Cup wins in the number 99 Ford. He'd come within a tiebreaker of winning the 2011 championship against Tony Stewart, and Roush often called him the cornerstone of our success. But by 2014, Roush's performance had slipped, and Edwards quietly negotiated a move to Joe Gibbs Racing's Toyota team. The sport's worst-kept secret became official when Edwards told Roush he was leaving at season's end. Nervous about Jack's reaction, Carl was surprised when his boss remained calm publicly, saying they'd made him a solid offer, but acknowledging that modern NASCAR was like other pro sports. Athletes move around. Privately, it had to sting. His hand-raised protege was leaving for a wealthier, arch-rival team. Fans called it a betrayal, seeing Edwards walk away from the only NASCAR home he'd ever known. Still, Carl raced hard for Roush in the 2014 chase, determined to exit with dignity. Even so, the move was a bombshell, proof that loyalty can be fragile when greener pastures beckon, and another reminder for Jack Roush that no star is forever. Kevin Harvick's punk-ass parting shot at RCR 2013, from company man to renegade. Kevin Harvick's 2013 exit from Richard Childress Racing was less a graceful goodbye and more a fiery breakup. For 13 seasons, Harvick had been RCR's golden child, the man who stepped into Dale Earnhardt's seat in 2001 and delivered 23 Cup wins, including a Daytona 500. But in his final year before leaving for Stewart-Haas Racing, long simmering tensions erupted at a Martinsville Truck Series race. Harvick tangled on track with Ty Dillon, Childress's grandson, trading paint and post-race barbs. Then came the line that lit NASCAR ablaze. Harvick called the Dillon boys punk-ass kids, fed with a spoon their whole life, adding, "That's exactly why I'm leaving RCR." The pit road scene turned chaotic. An RCR crewman even hurled a sledgehammer at Harvick's truck. Richard Childress, usually unflappable, said he was very disappointed and had too much class to say what he really wants to say on TV. After over a decade together, the relationship had devolved into public mudslinging. Harvick felt overlooked and frustrated by RCR's focus on the boss's grandkids. Childress felt betrayed. Harvick left for SHR and promptly won the 2014 title, but his RCR finale will always be remembered for those punk kids remarks, a split that cut both ways. Jeremy Mayfield versus Ray Evernham, 2006, teammate turns traitor with a scandalous accusation. The Evernham Motorsports garage turned into a full-blown soap opera in 2006 when driver Jeremy Mayfield blew up his relationship with team owner Ray Evernham. Mayfield had enjoyed success in Evernham's Dodges, even earning a clutch 2004 win to make the inaugural chase. But by 2006, performance tanked, and whispers spread that Evernham was distracted by a personal relationship with development driver Aaron Crocker. Feeling ignored, Mayfield went public with a bombshell. He accused Evernham of being an absentee owner because of his close personal relationship with a female racer on the team. It was jaw-dropping, a driver airing his boss's love life and tying it to the team's decline. Evernham was livid. He immediately fired Mayfield, and the feud went to court. In lawsuits, Mayfield claimed the team had gone in the toilet due to Evernham's distractions. Evernham shot back, alleging Mayfield skipped meetings and even purposely wrecked to sabotage results. The garage buzzed. Was Mayfield a whistleblower or a traitor? Evernham later admitted the relationship did hurt the team, but the damage was done. Mayfield's promising run ended in acrimony, his career soon spiraling. The saga had it all: speed, romance, betrayal, and 2 men who both felt stabbed in the back. Kasey Kahne bails on Richard Petty Motorsports, 2010, the franchise driver revolts. In late 2010, Kasey Kahne, long hailed as Richard Petty Motorsports franchise star, shocked his team by effectively quitting mid-season after months of mounting frustration. Kahne had given the Evernham Petty operation its brightest moments, including 6 wins in 2006, but the once elite team was now struggling badly. The breaking point came at Charlotte that October, when his brakes failed for the third time that year, causing a violent crash. Bruised and disgusted, Kahne climbed out and refused to get back in, citing illness and his exasperation with subpar equipment. An RPM official confronted him, saying he needed to start doing his part, implying he wasn't toughing it out. That was the final insult. Days later, RPM released Kahne from his contract immediately. In a flash, the number 9 Budweiser Ford had a new driver, and Kahne was off to join Red Bull Racing early. The fallout played out publicly. Kahne said he'd been giving 100% but couldn't control the issues with the car. Fans split sharply. Some saw him as betraying the king by walking away. Others believed the team betrayed him with junk equipment and misplaced blame. It was an ugly, trust-shattering end to a once promising partnership. The Bud Boy had revolted, and there was no turning back. Richard Petty abandons Petty Enterprises, 1983. The King's stunning walkout. Even the King isn't above a little betrayal. In 1983, Richard Petty stunned the racing world by leaving Petty Enterprises, the family team founded by his father, where he'd spent over 25 years and won 7 championships. By the early 80s, Petty Enterprises struggled with aging equipment, and in late 1983, after winning Charlotte's Miller High Life 500 in October 1983, Tech found a 381.7 SI engine and wrong side tires. NASCAR let the win stand, but docked 104 points and fined $35,000. That controversy was the final straw. Petty quietly struck a deal to drive for Mike Curb's upstart team in 1984. Suddenly, the King was in a Curb Pontiac with a brand new crew. Petty Enterprises, where brother Maurice Petty was the longtime engine chief and Dale Inman had already departed after the 1981 Daytona 500, felt betrayed. Their superstar had jumped ship when the going got tough. The gamble paid off. In 1984, Petty earned his historic 200th win on July 4th at Daytona and added the Firecracker 400 for good measure. Still, it was surreal to see him celebrating without Petty Blue. After a winless 1985, Richard returned to Petty Enterprises in 1986 to close out his career, proving that blood was ultimately thicker than water. But for 2 seasons, NASCAR's king separated from his kingdom, a bold move that showed even legends will break the rules of loyalty when chasing glory. Darrell Waltrip buys out DiGard, 1980. Jaws' great escape. Darrell Waltrip was known as Jaws for his sharp tongue. But in 1980, he showed his bite in a very different way. At the time, Waltrip was a rising superstar with DiGard Racing's number 88 Chevy, battling for championships. But behind the scenes, tension with management and a string of mechanical failures were wearing him down. Sensing a better opportunity, Waltrip quietly began talks with Junior Johnson, whose team had a vacancy after Cale Yarborough stepped back. There was just one problem. Waltrip was still under contract with DiGard. His solution? Negotiate a buyout, essentially paying the team to set him free. When word got out, things turned ugly. DiGard's owners felt blindsided, calling it a betrayal from the driver they'd treated like family. Fans were split. Some saw greed, others saw a racer desperate to win. The move paid off. Waltrip joined Junior Johnson in 1981 and immediately won back-to-back championships. In that number, 11 Chevy, he scored 43 victories, more than half his career total. DiGard rebounded quickly. Within 3 seasons of Waltrip's exit, Bobby Allison won the 1983 Cup Championship, driving the team's number 22 to the organization's Lone Series title. It was one of NASCAR's first big contract soap operas, a story of secret meetings, a high-stakes buyout, and a driver who proved he was willing to bet on himself. Roush loses young Kyle Busch. 2002, a phenom slips away. Before he was rowdy, Kyle Busch was a teenage prodigy in Jack Roush's stable, and Roush was convinced he'd found his next superstar. In 2001 to 2002, a 16-year-old Kyle Busch was a Roush development driver preparing to debut in trucks. He even practiced on a Roush truck at Fontana in 2001, but was pulled from competition when the tobacco settlement's age restrictions applied to that race weekend. Then NASCAR raised the minimum age to 18 for its top national series beginning in 2002. Sidelining him from Trucks and Busch Series starts until he turned 18. Roush planned to bide his time, keep Busch in the fold, and groom him for a future Cup ride in a Ford. But another player was circling. Rick Hendrick saw an opening and moved fast. Promising a quicker path to the top, Hendrick lured Busch away. By 2003, the teenager shocked Roush by signing with Hendrick Motorsports, lined up for Busch Series starts as soon as he turned 18. Roush was furious. He publicly took a jab at Busch's youth, saying, "Many broken cars and broken hearts will come along before he matures." Not really sad that I'm going to miss it. To him, it was Jeff Gordon all over again. Another prized Ford prospect snatched by Chevy, stoking an already heated rivalry. For Busch, it was simple: a faster climb and a chance to step out of older brother Kurt's shadow. But to many, he became the young traitor who abandoned the team that discovered him. The gamble worked. Busch rose to Cup stardom, eventually becoming a two-time champion with Joe Gibbs Racing. Still, for Jack Roush, the sting never faded. Kyle Busch wasn't just another driver who left, he was the one that got away. Mike Harmon steals a teammate's hauler, 2013, the Truck Series heist. Not all NASCAR betrayals happen at 200 miles an hour. Some play out in the still of the night. In 2013, the Truck Series was rocked by a bizarre scandal. Journeyman driver Mike Harmon was arrested, accused of stealing fellow driver Jennifer Jo Cobb's race hauler. The 18-wheeler transporter, valued around $250,000, vanished from a Charlotte area storage lot used by Cobb's team. The twist? Harmon wasn't just another competitor. He'd once been a friend, even serving as team manager for Cobb's operation. It was the kind of story you'd expect from a crime novel. Harmon flatly denied it all on Twitter. "I have never stolen so much as a piece of bubblegum. I did not take JJC's hauler." Then, cryptically added, "Today she was the windshield and I was the bug. But there's a boulder coming." Weeks later, investigators served additional warrants and seized multiple race cars and equipment tied to the dispute. And Harmon was arrested again in a related action. Cobb stayed calm publicly, saying she hadn't accused anyone directly and was letting the legal process play out. Fans, however, were floored. NASCAR had never seen a grand theft auto case between competitors. The media called it the hauler heist. Eventually, charges were dropped for lack of evidence, but the damage was done. Cobb had to borrow equipment just to make the next race, and Harmon's name was forever tied to the scandal. In the end, it was a modern NASCAR betrayal: friendship, trust, and a $250,000 hauler gone in 60 seconds. Spy in the Garage, JGR engineer sells secrets, 2024, a traitor in the ranks. In 2024, Joe Gibbs Racing, one of NASCAR's most respected powerhouses, was rocked by a betrayal straight out of a spy thriller. Allegations surfaced that a trusted JGR engineer had been secretly selling proprietary setup data to a rival team for cash. For team owner Joe Gibbs, a five-time Cup champion, the idea that one of his own would peddle years of hard-earned secrets was unthinkable. Reports claimed the leaked intel covered everything from car designs to aerodynamic tricks, the kind of details that gave JGR its razor-sharp edge. In the Garage, whispers turned into a roar. Was this a deliberate inside job to derail Gibbs's title hopes? NASCAR rarely sees true espionage cases, and the revelation drew comparisons to Major League cheating scandals. The plot thickened when it emerged that the tip-off came from another team, one not even in championship contention. NASCAR officials admitted they'd been aware, but needed a formal complaint to act. Publicly, JGR stayed silent, perhaps hunting for answers behind closed doors. Fans imagined tense closed-door meetings, suspicion clouding every conversation. If proven, the fallout could be devastating: termination, legal action, even blackballing from the sport. After all, Gibbs's operation is famed for its integrity and success, over 200 wins and multiple Daytona 500s, and a mole in the ranks cut deeper than any on-track defeat. This wasn't a driver leaving for greener pastures, it was betrayal from within. A reminder that in modern motorsports, loyalty can be every bit as valuable and as fragile as speed. Which of these betrayals do you think was the worst in NASCAR history, and which one still makes you mad today? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching the NASCAR Explainer.